Men are 4 times more likely to take their life after divorce than a woman. There's no support for fathers on the island. You know, it was very, very rare. Last year we had 3,597 calls through the
Last
helpline.
year, 3,700 calls. Just last year.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I'm not going to say the focus is the children, because it is, but you hear that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, you go to children's services, the courts, and like, we're here for the child. And then you've got a father and a mother there, and you're kind of thinking, okay, but if I'm not there for the mother and the father, or whichever ones are engaging with me, then I'm not really there for the child, because they need good parents. So I looked at the data in Jersey, 82% of single parent households are by the mother. Mm-hmm. So that's a big gap, whether that is fathers abandoning their children, or not wanting to be involved in their children, or mothers making it very difficult, or it could be the loss of a father, incarceration of a father.
But you mentioned before about a person who's back in the community with a job, with access to children, with hope, with a future. Is it that simple?
We can make it that simple.
Welcome to the James Ark podcast. I'm Stuart Richford. If this is your first time tuning in, we use this space to not only raise awareness of the great work James Ark does, but we also want to challenge some of the misconceptions, but also dig into what's really happening with the challenge of fatherlessness in the islands. So no jargon, no fluff, just honest conversations with people trying to improve the future. I'm delighted to be joined here today by James Cunningham, the founder of James Ark. James, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Stuart.
James, let's kick off with something really simple. For those people who don't know you, what is James's Ark? What does it do?
So James's Ark was originally set up to support fathers through separation, divorce, and loss of access to their children, but it's spiderwebbed now into helping mothers, fathers, children. Obviously, the main core of it is tackling fatherlessness as well, and supporting children and families through separation.
A very emotive and difficult subject, so hopefully it's going to be interesting. Just again, another little teaser then. What's the most exciting project you're working on right now?
It's hard to pick one. I think obviously the one that's probably maybe seen as a little bit controversial is the prisoner reconnection program, which has recently been running. But then another one that I'm quite particularly favourable of is the Therapeutic supported family time.
Amazing. So we will dig into those 2 points, obviously, as we go through the course of the podcast. But what's your bigger vision? How is James's Ark looking to help children, families, and the community?
Well, there's a lot of big issues around children losing access to their fathers, and it is primarily the fathers they lose access to after a separation. So long term, we hope to combat that completely, which is a big ask. But that is what we want to do in the long term, or limit it. And I mean, I think we've been quite successful the longer we've been around with, combating that issue and actually getting more children back in contact with their fathers.
Thank you. And again, more for scene setting purposes, and before we dig into the detail, can you give us an overview of why fatherlessness is an issue? What statistics or views do you have?
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes these stats can be seen as controversial, and some parents may see them as a dig at the parents, but they're not a dig at the parents. It is particularly in support of the children, and the children having access to both parents. So, some of the stats, they say in the UK, about 1 in 3 children live without their biological father. So I looked at the data in Jersey, 82% of single parent households are by the mother. So that's a big gap, whether that is fathers abandoning their children, or not wanting to be involved in their children, or mothers making it very difficult, or it could be the loss of a father, incarceration of a father. So children from father-absent homes are twice as likely to experience depression and anxiety. They're 4 times likely to experience emotional behaviour problems as well. Fatherlessness children are twice as likely to drop out of school. A lot of these stats which I'm going through, they're not just stats. I've done work in the prison. I look back at my childhood. I look back at children at school that I was with. 83% of youths in prison come from fatherless homes. Teenage crime, teenage pregnancies as well. That a lot of it is factual. When I've worked with prisoners, which we spoke about, I've recently done the ACEs with some of the prisoners, and I'd say 8 out of 10 of them didn't have a father. So these are backed up. Youths I've worked in youth hostels.
Yeah.
No father. So homeless youths as well, a big one. Self-harm, substance misuse. And again, it's not a dig at mothers. I'm sure if the data was the other way around, there would be children that would be struggling when they've lost access to their mothers as well.
I think it's extraordinarily profound, and I think I'd just like to touch on that one point you've just made. This is not a dig at single-parent households.
No.
It's, I can only imagine, extraordinarily hard to raise children with one pair of hands, right?
Yeah.
The challenge in your experience, and certainly borne out by the UK data then, is one of, it is typically the man that is removed for a whole variety of reasons, and this is about the consequences it can have. So again, we're going to hopefully touch on a lot more of these points in a lot more detail and try and get under the skin of what's going on. But let's set the scene as to the charity's work then in a broader sense. How many people did you help last year? How many children, how many mums, how many dads?
So last year we helped 135 fathers and 61 mothers, and we reconnected over 100 children back with their parents. So that was mothers losing access as well as fathers losing access as well. So, and it's not just, 135 fathers, we help them, they come in and out the doors. I mean, some of these guys, I've had a guy on my caseload now since 2021. So these can be in and out, quickly just need a bit of advice. Some of them can be working with us for a long period of time, in and out of the family courts. They get their contact back with their children, and there's more disruption as well, which is a massive toll on people's mental health as well.
And again, so how many, you talk about a caseload then, how many cases are you working on right now?
Currently right now, 124. So
124.
Yeah.
And how big is your staff?
So we've got a few volunteers. We've got me running pretty much the day-to-day of the charity, as well as supporting the families. I've had to now put them into categories. So they're coded, different color codes. So you've got people that are coming for the first 6 weeks, and that's intensive support. Then you've got the second stage, which is purple. And then you've got them for 6 weeks. Then you've got the aftercare stage. And then you've also got the prisoner stage as well, which you support them through.
That's amazing. And I say we will touch on the sort of services the charity provides. But again, scene setting for the benefit of those who have never looked into this subject before then. So why is the charity focusing on dads and not, say, parents more generally?
There's no support for fathers on the island. It's very, very rare. I know Brighter Futures do a dad's club, but this particular support, fathers that have gone through this, they are often running into a brick wall. They're cut out of so many services. It's a battle to sometimes be recognised in the schools. And I'm going to say this, trying to get the school reports, trying to be involved in your children, trying to get updates from CAMS, trying to get updates from children's services, trying to get updates from all the family services in the island. You are being blocked. It is like barking up a tree, right, and getting nowhere.
And we will touch on some of the work with prisons, what have you, in due course. But in your experience, does what you've just described, does that include a normal dad as well?
Yes, yeah.
in your experience?
Yeah.
Cool.
Normal dads, separated father, good fathers as well, that are very hands-on and loving and brilliant, which there's a large percentage of good fathers who are not treated. I'd say they're not treated very well.
So one of the charity's aims is to raise awareness of the impact on dad, not just the children, but also on dad from a separation and I guess almost like a rejection or the exclusion from their children's lives. What's, in your experience, the impact on dad from that process?
So if he loses access to his children, so I mean, you look at it from a father who works hard for his family, works hard for his children, his partner, relationship breaks down. I'd say a large amount of time, the father does the noble thing and he leaves the family home. He then may lose access to his children, his wife, his home, and the domino effect can be his job and his mental health, and sadly some of them can take their lives, you know. And I mean, I'm not gonna, don't quote me on this data, but I think the men are 4 times more likely to take their life after divorce than a woman. I'm going to say that maybe higher.
And I think, so I've researched the stats not only for this, but also for gender pay and other matters as well. So the second highest category of someone taking their own life is men in their late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
And one could imagine that this could be a causal relationship.
Yeah. I mean, the one of the things I read about and really studied and looked into was the dangers of the unattached male. So, you know, you look at men who aren't married, don't have a partner, haven't got access to their children, don't have a job. They're more dangerous to society and they're more dangerous to themselves because they have nothing to live for. Men who have got access to their children are safer for society.
A very profound statement. So there's a lot to unpack there. So let's start trying to step through things. So again, let's take it to a lighter zone for a second. Can you outline the services that your charity provides?
Yeah, so we have got the helpline, which is the initial contact, which was the first thing that the charity set up. From experience, going through something like this, you want to talk, right? We encourage men to talk. For me, there was no one to talk to, right? I had family, friends, but they get sick of hearing it. So we needed to have something for people to go to speak about what was going on, give them some hope, and just to be able to vent. And so a helpline was the first thing we set up, which to date we've had, last year we had 3,597 calls through the helpline.
Last year, 3,700 calls. Just last year.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So that's got bigger and bigger in a sense.
Amazing. And what other services?
So we have the mentoring and the parenting coaching as well. So that is, they can have support through the family courts on a one-to-one basis or through the separation process. So we would guide them, we would give them good advice, help them to reduce the conflict, help them not to go down the route of harassing the ex-partner, turning up at the address, making annoying phone calls, keeping them focused on the children. That is the primary focus, is focus on the children, make sure their mental health is looked after, signpost them to some of our other agencies, which may be a support group or the wellbeing events which we run as well. So
you've just touched on something quite important, quite interesting. So you've got a helpline, which is 3,700 calls and the access point. But you've just mentioned there, again, some of the very negative outcomes of men in a difficult situation. They lash out, they knock on doors, they probably make calls when they probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
How are you helping these people in this distressed situation?
So, I mean, if a mother went through something like that, she would stop seeing her children. It's going to be really difficult. Yeah, it's going to be really, really difficult. I mean, you'll stop seeing your child and you're a father who cares about that child and you love that child, it's like ripping their heart out. So, you know, we try and keep them calm, give them hope, let them know plenty of guys have been through this. What we can do is we're going to get we can either contact the mum if she wants to engage with us or not, or we can do an application straight to the family courts and get them that access back as quick as possible.
And when these men are heard, listened to, and they're shown a path forward, what's the outcome? How do they feel?
Yeah, I mean, if they know they're going to see their kids again, the mood lifts. They feel heard, they feel understood. And I mean, it's damage limitation in a sense of don't be sending any more text messages.
Yeah.
Don't
do dumb stuff.
Which is sin is harassment. So don't turn up at the address. Abusive behaviour as well. We'll work on that with them. Like that's sin is abuse. I mean, some of these men aren't educated on what abuse is. The new coercive control law. None of them have been educated on this, so they don't know what that entails. So it's explaining that to some of these guys.
So just to pick that up on then, other than let's hope it doesn't get to that point, the police.
Yeah.
You're the first person who's explaining the consequence of their actions to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's a terrible state of affairs. And again, what is the response of the men who go through this process? What are they saying in 6 months' time, 3 months' time, after they've come out the other side and maybe a bit more reflective?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some good testimonies on the website that we've had written. Some of them we haven't had testimonies written. Some people say they're going to do it and they don't get round to it, which we don't push them to do it. If they want to do it, they're more than welcome to write a testimony for us. Some of the guys which we've read on the website, you've saved their lives. You know, they've been in dark places where they've wanted to take their lives. Some of them, you've reconnected them with their children, and they're forever grateful for that. And their children are forever grateful for that. There's been guys that haven't seen their children for 7 years to 14 years, where they've lost access, and we've managed to help reconnect them.
And what goes through, in your experience, a man's mind when he has lost contact with his kids, and why are they wanting to reconnect?
Because it's their children, so they love their children.
They
want to reconnect. Yeah. So I mean, when they haven't seen them for a long period, some of them maybe they've lost access for a couple of days or a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You guide them through that. You let them know, look, you will get access. You've just got to, look at the safety concerns. Now it's kind of,
step through the process, follow the rules,
follow my guidance. I'll give you the best guidance possible through this. If you listen to what the guidance is, you will get access back with your children. Whereas the ones that have been long term, what we do is we'll work with the other parent, see what the barriers are to them seeing their children, which we probably touch on, and then we help the father address them barriers, whether it's mental health, addiction.
Okay, so let's take a step back then, and let's start thinking about some of those services you offer. You've mentioned throughout the process, which what I think corresponds to therapeutic parent coaching, having read your sort of website. What does that mean I don't know what that means to me. What does therapeutic parent coaching mean practically?
So if children have got neurodiverse or they've suffered with developmental trauma in their childhoods, some of these parents going through the family courts may not be able to meet the needs, or they may be being told they can't meet the needs of the child. So we will support them with some parenting tips as well, which is from a therapeutic approach, which we do with the prisoners as well. So that's what the therapeutic parenting. So I've done a 2-year course in therapeutic parenting, and I'm now a parenting coach. So I can offer this service to these parents should they be willing to engage in that.
Yeah, excellent. And again, just describe, to take a typical candidate who's, let's say there's no risk factors involved. They've just, had been separated, they're in different countries, moved away, all these different things that happen in life. Just describe at a high level the process of reconnecting. What would a dad or a parent have to go through to reconnect with their children?
If it's been a long-term separation.
Let's say it's been 2-3 years.
Yeah. Okay, so they would get in contact with me. They would say, look, I haven't seen my son or daughter for 3 years. I'm looking to get back in contact with him. I'm in a better place. I've had X, Y, and Z happen to me, and I want to try and reconnect with my son. And so what I would do is I would say, right, okay, this is the process. You'd have to engage with me for 4 weeks to show me you're committed. If you've dropped out of your child's life, whether it's through your fault or not, there's going to be a commitment you need to do. So they would commit and work with me for 4 weeks. I'd make contact with the mother. I would let her know what I'm doing. Is she on board with this or not? She may say yes. She may say no. If she says yes, and she says, well, I know he used to smoke loads of drugs or he used to do this. So I would say, okay, so what process do you want to take? Do we want to go down this route or do you want to go down that route? So she said, well, look, I'll meet with you. I'll meet with the mum. She'll get to see who I am. If she'll like me or she won't. And then we'll go down the route of addressing the father's issues. So, or the barriers, shall we say. So I've worked with drug and alcohol. The fathers have said, right, okay, well, I'm going to do, just for an example of a case, I'm happy to do, drugs tests. I'll go through these with drug and alcohol. I'll get a report from drug and alcohol. They'll update me with the progress and how he's doing. And you almost give this guy motivation as well. So what happens after that stage, if he gets through these stages, mum's happy, is then we'll do supported contact in the community.
And what's that?
So supported contact is basically, we call it therapeutic supportive contact. So we will do something in the community where we will oversee the contact with the father and the child. We would meet the child first, so the child gets to know us and trusts us as well. Then we would go into the community. It may start off with a meal. So if the child's a bit older, so we will go to Better Italia. Okay, let's have something to eat. Get to know, get to break some barriers with your son. Things are going well. We'll do that for another week, and then we'll progress it from 2 hours to 4 hours. Then we would go to Jump Jersey. And it isn't just I'm there watching with a pen and paper taking notes. We want to make it as relaxed and friendly and real as possible for them. That's why we call it therapeutic. So things we would also do after the sessions, we will give feedback to the father. We will say, yeah, you've done that really, really well. Maybe work on that. You were a bit harsh there with him, and give him a little bit of feedback, positive praise as well, in a sense of, giving your son positive praise. So we'll give that some feedback. Also, we meet with the child as well. So we would check him, see how he's doing. What does he want to see? What's he want to see next?
And I think that's an important point to just draw out then, because at the heart of all this is children, sons and daughters, boys and girls. So whilst we're talking right now about dads reconnecting, in reality, whose choice is it ultimately?
It's the child's choice. So, and it's not forcing it, because force creates resistance. And I've learned this with dads, the more they chase force, the kid will disengage. Whether mum's getting into the child's head or not, they will disengage.
It's fairly straightforward. If you're too pushy, people pull back. Yeah. But again, it seems that the purpose of the controlled process is to coach dads to be better and maybe hold them to account for their actions. I mean, without obviously going into details, can you give any examples, practical examples, where you've helped dads overcome maybe some of their behaviors that are driving the outcome they don't want, i.e., the bad outcomes?
So one of them's now 12 months sober. When he first come to us, we had to do a welfare call because we were that concerned for his drinking and him taking his life. He's now 12 months sober. So that's a big change.
That's a huge change.
Yeah. One of the guys now, he had issues around, controlling behavior. He seemed to really calmed himself. We got him involved with doing the Wim Hof method, which is the breath work and which releases natural trauma in the body. He's done some coaching with me as well, and he's seen his kids more regularly now, which he wasn't seeing them at all. So it's kind of I suppose me being a man working with fathers, it works better. And I never treat them with disrespect. I always speak to them with compassion, kindness, listen to them, guide them, don't tell them, guide them in the right direction, which is normally a better outcome. There's no shaming them for their behavior, right? Because a lot of these guys, they say, well, mum's done this, mum's done that. And my take on it is, you can't control what mum's done.
So what?
Yeah, you can't control what mum's done, right? You've only got yourself to hold to account. You can only change your behavior. That is all you have power over. And the sooner you see that, the better you're going to move forward.
That's an incredibly powerful statement. So let's tackle some of the tricky parts again. So James, a lazy criticism of James's arc would be, as we've discussed, you're kind of helping deadbeat dads, re-engage and disrupt their children's lives. It's an easy criticism, and I could see why someone else may have that perspective. But I do think it's unfair, but it's clearly been leveled at you before. So let's address some safeguarding concerns directly. So in cases where there's, let's say, an ongoing police investigation regarding child safety, where does James Ark stand? How do you engage with such a situation?
So if someone contacted us, a father, and this was going on in the background, and we were aware of this, say we phoned the mother and she said, well, actually this and this is going on. Then,
Crikey.
Yes. Yeah. So we wouldn't disconnect from this father, because we would support them, because, it's an investigation, not a conviction, but it would go to the family courts. So we would support with doing a C100 to the family courts, because there's a safeguarding for the child. Yeah.
So I think that's an important statement. So let the police do police work.
Yeah.
And, whatever happens after that happens after that.
Yeah.
So again, where dad, let's say, has an issue with drug or substance misuse, what's the process before they can, or what is the process?
Yeah, so we would support them to rehabilitate. I mean, I'm 21 years clean and sober today. So
congratulations.
So it's possible. And I think that's a good thing is looking at, okay, he's got these issues, he's struggling, let's help him. They've come to us, let's help them, and there's a high success rate. We've helped people to tackle alcohol, drugs, behavior issues, so obviously it starts with them. If they want to engage in the process, we can support them with engaging in the process. And what best is their children as their motivation. If you're going to change, it's going to be for your kids. So.
And how do you engage with some of the other agencies?
So, in sense of which...
Well, drug and alcohol misuse.
Yeah, so they've been really good. So we've got a good relationship with them. We had a really good feedback from them recently, which is on our website, which they've said, our work is actually helping these guys to change, by doing what we're doing, it's actually helping people to rehabilitate, which again is safer for society. And you then have good fathers back involved with their kids, which then breaks the cycle of fatherlessness. I mean, you look at substance misuse. A lot of people who struggle with substance misuse had no male role model in their lives. So we're breaking the cycle.
You've described the process, you've described your engagement with the other agencies. So again, to put that in perspective, is that just what the court requires, or is it more, is it less?
So I think I'm probably a little bit harsher, but
it's probably good to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think our focus is I'm not going to say the focus is the children, because it is, but you hear that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, you go to children's services, the courts, and like, we're here for the child. And then you've got a father and a mother there, and you're kind of thinking, okay, but if I'm not there for the mother and the father, or whichever ones are engaging with me, then I'm not really there for the child, because they need good parents.
Yeah.
In order for these children to be raised to the best of who they can be, they need a mother and a father in their lives that are healthy and happy. So we really want to bring out the best fathers we can and the best mothers we can, should they want to engage, which is going to bring out the best child. So by saying, right, well, sorry, mate, you take drugs, you're not seeing your child again, on you go. Or sorry, mate, you're abusive, on you go. It's like, okay, are you willing to change? Do you want to engage with us? Then we'll try and help you to be the best you can be, right? But you've got to want to do it. You've got to look at your issues and address them. And it's kind of like, you know, what are the barriers to seeing your child? Okay, these are the barriers, right? If you address these barriers, you can see your child. Ask me what to do.
Sounds too easy.
It does. Yeah. But you've got to put the work in.
Yeah.
You know? So it is a simple process, but it's, if you're coming off drugs, you know, or you're trying to change your behavior, it's going to be hard. But if you're willing, you will get there, right? It's like running a marathon. You know, you give up, you're not going to get to the finish line. You keep powering through,
you'll get there.
you get the medal.
As we saw on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And look, so you mentioned you're 21 years sober.
Yeah.
Literally today. That's incredible. How do dads respond to you, and why is it different to how they might respond to, let's say, the police or the other, I guess, government agencies? Why are you being more successful, arguably, than maybe the enforcement agencies?
Because it comes from them. They come to us for support. You know, we're on their side. We want them to succeed. We don't want them to fail. We want them to succeed for their children, you know, by helping them address their issues, see their children. You know, you could call it, because it's a child, I don't want to call it a carrot, but there's something there that they're working towards. You know, there's a goal.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to see my kids if I address X, Y, and Z, right? And it doesn't mean, oh, you've addressed it, you're seeing your kids so they go back to their old ways, because that's what the aftercare is for. You know, we still engage with the kid, we still engage with the father, we still engage with the mother, and try and kind of make sure that things are still moving forward.
So after reconnecting, describe what that aftercare is. What's its purpose then?
So if you go back to the therapeutic supported family time, right, we do a phased approach as well. So say it's moved to 4 hours, what we would then do then is we check in with the mum. Okay, we want to now start stepping back. This has been going on for this amount of weeks. We want to step back, but you don't, okay, contact's going really well. We're going to step back now. What we do is one of the kids said, so you disappearing, James? And I disappear. I come for the first hour.
Yeah.
Then I disappear for 2 hours. And then I come back for the last hour. And then I slowly phase myself out of the session, you know. And one of the things I've noticed of what I do is the kids start to build a relationship with me. So that can then be something, right, well, I need to be a little bit more aware of that.
Yes.
You know, that I don't become their father in a sense, right? If there's been a long break.
There's an important role there, which is not yours to fulfill.
Yeah. So I have to kind of be careful with that, but still, because they've got abandonment issues, you know, they've got a void that was left when their father was he either abandoned him, or he was either pushed out, or it was made impossible for him to have a relationship that he gave up, right? So they have that abandonment. I mean, people say, you know, oh, well, if the mother wants to raise the kids on her own, then she should. Well, no, it's not up to the mother. It's up to what's best for the child. It's not about you or him. It's about what's best for that child. That child deserves to have both parents, should it be safe.
I think that's a really good point. So James, you're clearly very passionate about this topic. when you go in to the prison, for example, you do a lot of work with prisoners. Again, why are you successful when other people may not have been? How do they relate to you? Because it's got to be tough. There's got to be some tough characters in prison. I've got an image in my head, which probably is wrong, but you know, how are these sessions going? Is there pushback? Is there, I don't know, how do people feel when they start versus when they start to engage? Why are you successful and maybe other methods haven't been?
I'm gonna, well, I was in prison when I was younger. So I'd spent a bit of time in and out of there when I was a child. So it's empathy. You know, I look at it from their perspective. What did I need? What helped me? What helped me to heal? And I look at it from their perspective. And you want to see them succeed. You want to see them change. You don't want to see them fail. You're getting, you know, they get arrested by the police. A lot of these issues are fear-driven. A lot of like children, they're not naughty kids. These kids are acting out of fear, right? So, and the same with these prisoners, they're acting out of fear. Their behaviour is, a lot of it is down to trauma. A lot of it down to losing access to fatherlessness. Like I mentioned, I've done the ACEs score with them, and a lot of them didn't have a dad. A massive percentage of them, but same as these stats.
Almost the same for what you said.
But it says 83% of youths in prison come from fatherless homes, and these are youths and adults, you know, and I'm going to say 8 out of 10 of them didn't have a dad, right? So comes from there. And I mean, break it down to, if your dad died, how's that going to feel? You know?
Awful.
Your mum died, how's it going to feel?
Awful.
That's what's happening. It's a loss, you know, just because the guy's still alive. But then you have on top of that, my dad didn't die. He's here and he doesn't want to see me. So it's not even the death, it's the rejection, abandonment and loss all mixed into one, you know. So these guys are dealing with that and
also dealing with potentially that they've just done that to their own kids.
Yeah. So they're incarcerated in prison away from their children. So then that cycle is repeating itself. So we try and get access. And we've had some good results with the prisoners.
So again, we can't obviously divulge cases or too many details that would clearly identify a case. But do you have any good examples, good stories about the impact the charities had in such a difficult circumstance like that?
In the prison, I mean, we do, again, people that leave prison, we do aftercare as well. So when they leave prison, the guys we've worked with, we stay in touch with them, we meet them, we work with them. I met one of them for breakfast on the weekend, you know, see how they're getting on. Yeah, they're working, they're doing well. Because they need a good surroundings, environment. They need a positive environment around them. So you stick in with them, you give them positive feedback, how they're getting on, you know. So it's using that. So you help them to reconnect with their children while they're in prison. And when they come out, you keep in contact with them, see how they're getting on, and such positive outcomes. And I think a lot of them have had good outcomes because they're now back in contact with their children. Yeah. So, and it's not you're getting them in contact with their children and they're unsafe, because the court will deem if they're safe or not. Yeah. So you're just supporting them through that process.
So these are people deemed safe by the courts.
Yeah.
You're just guiding them, I guess, through the process.
Yeah. And I mean, some of the prison will clear it. So we'll go through lawyers, and if the lawyers engage with us as well, they'll say, right, James, we're happy for you to work with us. So we've good relationships with some lawyers as well, which is positive. Some of them love what we do, so that's really good to have them on board.
And you might not have the data yet. The charities have only been running for a few years. Do you have any inkling as to the reoffender rates with the people you've helped?
It'd be good to see that. Again, the prisoner program's only been running, I'm going to say, for about 12 months.
So too soon.
Too soon. But guys that are in there, if, again, I make them, it's not the nice words to use, but, you know, they have to work on things while they're in there, because they have to deal with their offending behaviour. So they'll do courses that the prison suggests. So I say, okay, what courses are you doing? Well, I'm going to do this one, I'm going to do that one. We've done a support group in the prison, which there were some really good conversations, because you're talking about things like love, empathy,
And these are tough men.
These are tough men
talking about love and empathy.
Loving themselves, and loving their children, and what their needs are, and it's...
So I'm not in that situation. I feel a degree of skepticism when I hear that, or certainly to the concept of talking about that, my own issues I accept. How does that come over? Do people engage, or is it a slow process?
They do. It is a little bit slow, because there's a set of principles that we have in the charity which we were using with them, which is like things like love and compassion, acceptance, detachment from ego, and using these principles. But I would use like some of my life experiences as well, and looking like I've had to do my healing, right? So also using the therapeutic parenting coaching. So when I looked at their ACEs scores, which is adverse childhood experiences, I matched that to their children, what their children were suffering. So their children had been through trauma. These prisoners had been through trauma. So then we'd look at therapeutic parenting strategies as well to how would their children heal? And that would be the same way they would heal, right? So you're linking it together. I mean, for example, one of the sessions we'd done was love, right? Children who have suffered trauma need love, empathy, connection, understanding, not being isolated, told off, ridiculed, time out, go and sit in the corner and feelings on your own, so it's these prisoners may be being isolated, so you're just kind of magnifying them feelings even more, right? But if you take a prisoner aside and you say, look, you've got a lot to offer, you're a handsome guy, you're good at sports, your poetry's really good in what you're doing, you really engage well in the groups, you're lifting that person up, right? They then start to feel, I've got something to offer. Because this guy's probably most of his life felt like a piece of shit, right? Excuse my language. But then when you start adding to them, they then start to feel lifted up. So when you're teaching about therapeutic strategies for their children, with lifting your children up and connecting with your children, you can link that into their lives for them to heal.
It sounds almost too simplistic, but you mentioned before about a person who's back in the community with a job, with access to children, with hope, with a future. Is it that simple?
We can make it that simple if they engage with it.
Thanks. James, there's some amazing things there. We will thank you for being open and sharing some of your own challenges and experiences. I think it's quite powerful to hear that. I'm conscious of time though, so we will maybe tackle that another day. So let's bring us full circle and back up to the agenda at the top then. Remind us of what the charity aims to do.
So we aim to combat fatherlessness in the island, which is a big issue in Jersey, which isn't talked about. We do that through therapeutic strategies, support, trying to empower people, lift them up, hopefully work with the whole family. And reducing conflict as well, because divorce is tough, separation's tough on its own, without losing access to a parent, without children have to be in the middle of conflict. So that's what we hope to combat. Amazing.
And how are you funded?
So we get support from Jersey Community Foundation. They've been brilliant with us, Associated Jersey Charities. We've had some donations, some support from a number of people. So Jersey Telecoms recently donated a helpline to us, which is brilliant. JEC, we've had the Rotary Club. So there's been some anonymous donations as well. So yeah, we're always in need of funding so we can grow. Yeah.
Amazing. And I guess more importantly, if people do need help, do need to contact you, how do they find you?
So they can find us on Facebook, on our website, which is jamesarkjersey.com. The helpline number is 07700 311 085.
James, thank you. It's amazing talking to you as always. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Cheers.